the Raiders lost to the Falcons, thankfully. It seemed like it was a pretty close game. I was not able to catch this game, Mike. I got really busy today, but I want you to tell me about it. It was 15-9. It was a very low-scoring game, just like the game that we talked about earlier. Tell me about it.
Yeah. I mean, first I'll start with the fact that this was a close game. It didn't feel like it, even though it was a low-scoring game, because the Falcons were, for the most part in the second half, at the very least, up by 2 possessions. They were up 12-6 for most of the game. Or no, 12-3. They were up 12-3 for most of this game. And I was like, we're good. Like, the Falcons will score again, and this will be over. And in the fourth quarter, I think with like, say, 7-ish minutes left, the Falcons attempted a field goal, and Younghoe Koo missed it. And again, it was, well, at that time, again, at that time, it was 15-3. Then the Raiders go down, and they score a touchdown to Amir Abdullah. And that makes it 9-15, and they got their extra point blocked, which didn't matter because they're already down 6. If anything, actually, they should have gone for 2 mathematically, because if the Falcons went and got a field goal, they'd still be down 8 at that point. But Antonio Pierce didn't do that. I never thought of that until just now. My math could be off. But anyways, then the Falcons get the ball, and which was the story all game, Kirk Cousins just couldn't do shit. Like, Kirk Cousins looks like he's just wrap it up. He's done. This dude is cooked. He is I'm forgetting the word. Cooked is the closest I can get to it, but what's the word?
He's washed.
Washed. Yes. He is fucking washed. Maybe it was just Monday Night Football, Kirk Cousins, but dude, he looks bad. Like, it honestly felt like they didn't want to pass the ball. Like, they were trying not to pass the ball in this game because he's so fucking bad.
Is it okay? So my take on Kirk Cousins this year is that the Achilles has really hindered his ability to plant, and really like have zip on the ball. Did you see that tonight out of Kirk as well?
I didn't notice that. What I did notice, there was one play where, there were a couple plays where they got pressure on him and they sacked him. But there was one play in specific where I was listening to Dan Orlovsky, doing the play-by-play with Louis Riddick and the other guy who I don't know his name. And Orlovsky mentioned that in the weekly meetings with the team and stuff for the media, they were asking Kirk Cousins about, when you're under pressure, and you might have an opportunity to scramble, but you don't. And then maybe they didn't say this to his face, but that's usually the moments where he gets picked off, is because he freaks out, he's under pressure, and he just fucking throws the ball and he gets picked. Whereas there was a play in this game where he got pressured and he actually scrambled. And Dan Orlovsky said that was the second time all season that he's done that. Whereas usually he freaks out and he throws the ball and he gets picked. And I was like, there you go. So, their point was he's made it a purpose to actually scramble. Maybe his Achilles is getting a little better, but maybe it's a mental thing where because of his Achilles, he's like, no, I'm not running. I'm not breaking that thing again. I saw what happened to Dre Greenlaw. I don't know. But it just seems like he's a guy who, maybe because of the Achilles, when he gets pressured, it's, oh, fuck, got to throw it now. And there was even a play. Yeah, there was a play earlier in the game where Spillane and Divine Diablo just rushed him, just hit the gaps, and Spillane got picked up by the running back, but Diablo was coming in hot. Nobody blocked him, just full speed linebacker right at him, and Kirk Cousins sees him and just almost dove backwards as he's getting hit and barely got the pass off, and it went maybe a foot behind the running back. But I was like, dude, that was milliseconds away from being a forced fumble, and he just decided to throw the ball. Just fuck it, throw it. I don't know. But
Mhm.
the point there is just Kirk Cousins. He doesn't look like the Kirk Cousins that played for the Vikings, And I think, again, the Achilles could very much be a part of that. It could also be coaching, similar. I mean, in the same breath of like Sam Darnold playing good for the Vikings right now. I just think a lot is to be said about Kevin O'Connell right now. But obviously we're talking about Raiders versus Falcons. So, yeah, I just wanted to make a point about Kirk Cousins not looking good in this game. But to finish out the end of this game, Kirk Cousins had a third down, and he got rushed by Robert Spillane, and Spillane jumps as Kirk Cousins passed the ball, and Cousins threw it. It got deflected. I don't know if it was Spillane or just a bad throw, like an errant pass. And when Spillane came down from the jump, he hit Cousins like this,
15-yard penalty.
15-yard penalty, third down. Incomplete pass, but then roughing the passer. He didn't like try to hit him. It's just because he jumped while sprinting at him, naturally his body, unstoppable force into him, right?
I'm gonna look for the play so I can see it myself.
Yeah, it as a person who wants the first overall pick, I loved it. But if I were taking this game seriously, I would have been extremely pissed off because I don't think that's a proper penalty.
All right. It's not the worst roughing the passer that I've seen this year.
Yeah, I mean, there are worse. Like, he hit him. It's just they made it seem like he hit him on the head, but like his arm kind of hit his shoulder, not his head.
What might have drawn the penalty was the little bit of helmet to helmet contact,
Right.
which is inevitable because I mean the helmets are just in the way because they're so big. But
it was just annoying to me because he already had jumped and like he was trying to make a play at the ball, not at Kirk Cousins,
Mm-hmm.
But it's whatever. Like it worked out for me. So, but they get the first down, and then next 3 plays, Raiders force a fourth down finally, and I think the Falcons punted, so Ritter got the ball at like the 10-yard line. And this was another interesting fact that Dan Orlovsky said in this game was, I think early on in this game, I don't know if this is true, and I wish I paid more attention to how he said it because I don't know the exact stat or like the yard line marker of this stat. But I want to say what he said was if the Raiders get the ball behind the 25-yard line this season, they do not score touchdowns. Like they have not scored a touchdown longer than 75 yards on a drive. And I was like, that checks out. That makes sense because their offense is that bad. And Desmond Ridder almost did it. On the final drive of the game, down 6 points, he got them down with no timeouts. He got them to about maybe the 35-yard line on the Falcon side of the ball or the field. And he had 10 seconds left after getting them to whatever yard marker that was. And they got 2 plays off. And as they got there with 10 seconds and he spiked it, I was like, you got 2 plays. The first one, I thought he ran out the clock. I was like, oh my God. It wasn't even a Hail Mary, really. But he barely missed the receiver, and obviously there were defenders in the back of the end zone deflecting it and all that. And then the final play was a Hail Mary, and he threw it too far, and it got picked.
Damn. Jacoby Myers almost had that one, though.
The final one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if he had a chance to, like, fight for it a little better, he could have possibly taken it away from, I don't know if that was Simmons or somebody else, but, yeah. One thing I'll note about Desmond Ridder, just because he started in this game, he throws a beautiful spiral, but half the time it's usually 5 yards above his receiver's fucking hands. So, he's actually very athletic. Like, watching him play, he's got wheels. Like, he can run. It's just he's not that good playing quarterback. He looked solid on the final drive, but his decision making isn't quite there. Like similar to what I was saying about Kirk Cousins, like there were times where he would freak out in the pocket and he would errantly throw a pass right as he's getting hit. A lot of dump offs to the running backs, which is fine. Like it was working, I guess, but so that was the end of the game. Like they came up just short, thank God. But I'd say the other things to mention on the topic of Desmond Ridder, one thing that the play call, announcers noticed, Louis Riddick and Dan Orlovsky, and even myself, and even like Raider insiders on Twitter, like Vic Tafer, were tweeting about it. Like, why in the hell are the Raiders playing every single play out of shotgun? Like, there was not one snap under center. I don't know if it's because that's just how they prepped Desmond Ridder. I mean, it has to be a Desmond Ridder thing.
I think the game plan this week probably had to do with this. O'Connell was questionable for the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So O'Connell could have played, possibly. And this isn't the reason. This is my thinking. If O'Connell would have suited up to play, is he still experiencing pain from that thumb injury?
Well, I don't know about thumb, but knee for sure.
Yeah.
Basically, I mean, my assumption would be it just gives the quarterback more room to work the pocket and more ability to view the pocket. So, I mean, if O'Connell had played, maybe they do the same thing. I mean, my assumption will be O'Connell will start next week, so we'll see if they play every single snap out of the shotgun. But I kind of doubt it. I feel like it was a Desmond Ridder thing.
What suffers when you go out of shotgun so much? Or what typically suffers?
I'll give you one good one, but go ahead.
The rushing attack.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Sincere McCormick got hurt in this game. It looked like a pretty painful...
That's what
it looked like a painful ankle injury. And then on the first drive, which actually looked like solid, Alexander Mattison got rocked and he fumbled the ball and the Falcons recovered it. But the thing that comes in hand with that, playing out a shotgun was the fact that on at least 3 plays in this game, not on the same drives, 2 were on the same one, and then 1 was on like the following drive or 2 drives later, the Raiders were in shotgun in their own end zone. Like they were on the 1 or 2 yard line and the fucking quarterback and running back were lined up in the end zone out of shotgun. That's when the announcers were like, why are we not under center right now? Like this should be like, get the hell out of the end zone. Like if there's actually, just thinking about it right now, if there's ever been a moment this season that looked like clear tanking, that would be it, because that's stupid, because they got a safety. The Falcons got a safety on us because we were running out of the shotgun in the end zone. The first play, Alexander Mattison actually got tackled for a loss. So it was like they were on the 2 yard line. He got tackled at the 1. The very next play, safety. What are you doing? And then 2 drives later, they did it again out of the opposite end zone. It's like, what are we doing?
Mm-hmm. You mentioning that Sincere McCormick got injured, that definitely it reassured me of one thing, or I guess clarified to me. Like I was over here about to say, you know what? Every single time that Antonio Pierce says that a running back has earned more touches and looks very good, he's just a fucking liar. Because I literally, because Antonio Pierce was before the game talking about how Sincere McCormick had really earned, a lot more touches, and then I just see Alexander Mattison was like, the leading running back. But I guess that makes sense. He got hurt. Ridder ended up being the leading rusher with 5 carries for 28 yards.
Yeah, and then actually Amir Abdullah ended up being the guy that had the most touches in this game from the running back position, if I had to guess. McCormick was starting the game hot, maybe he ended out with the most touches, but Amir Abdullah was very much at the end of this game the only guy getting touches really.
No, it was Abdullah because Abdullah had 3 carries and then had 7 receptions, and then the next closest, out of the running back position was Madison.
Oh, yeah.
7 carries, 2 catches.
Sorry, I got Madison and Abdullah mixed up right there. Yeah, no, Abdullah having 7 receptions checks out because he, especially on like the final drive and stuff, the final 2 drives. I was gonna say something. Well,
Brock Bowers wasn't involved.
Yeah, not much. I don't know if they were just covering him really well in this game or what, but second half of the game they just went away from him. Last negative was special teams. They got 3 kicks blocked in this game. They got an extra point. I think they had a field goal blocked. I could be wrong. It might have just been 2. Or they had 2 punts blocked, but at least 1 punt, and for sure the extra point at the end of the game, they got blocked. I don't know why. I want to say there was a third, which I don't know if I've ever seen that in a game. And then just some positives, 2 players. Tyree Wilson had 2 tackles for loss and a sack. He got the start opposite Caleb Chason, which we haven't mentioned this yet because we didn't know last week on the pod, but Max Crosby's out for the year because of an high ankle sprain that he's going to get surgery on tomorrow or something. So, or at least it was going to get looked at today or something. So we'll see more Tyree Wilson, which is kind of a positive, I guess, for his progression, I guess. Whatever. And then John Laulu, defensive tackle. He had a tackle for loss, a sack, and a pass defended, which was actually a really good play. I want to say it was the final third down that got the Raiders the ball back at the end of the game. Like, it was a really good play. And his sack was a great play. He looked like a guy that is worth seeing the field a little bit more, but we'll see. I want to say he was the guy that the Raiders picked up or something off the Colts practice squad. I could be wrong. But that's really it for the game. Other than the Falcons, their stars looked good. Bijan looked good. Drake London had a good touchdown. But Kirk Cousins, he doesn't make me confident in their offense. Like the Falcons are a team that are in the playoff hunt, and they're playing the 2-11, now 2-12 Raiders, and they could barely clawed their way out of this game alive.
Yeah.
Like that just is perplexing to me, and that just screams they need to make a change at quarterback at some point, and it's probably because of the way that they've done it, it won't be this year, but I think next season, Kirk Cousins should not be their starter. It should be Michael Penix Jr. Yeah.
All right, let's get to some comments, and then we'll get back to Raider football. Hold on. Lucky says, I don't know what's worse, Ritter throwing hospital balls or AP over his mind. Or AP over his mind. But man, I already know it's time to clean house.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, I would argue Tom Telesco should stay, but I agree. As far as the coaching staff and a lot of the roster on offense, yes.
Mm-hmm. Frank says, yeah, Grandpa Cousins kicked our ass on his way to the Elmer's glue factory. I don't quite get that one.
Maybe he's gonna. I don't even know if I could say that on YouTube, but glue.
Okay.
Just yeah.
It's bad when the receivers did get the ball all game.
Yeah, I mean, again, with McCormick getting hurt, it felt like they were trying to feed McCormick early, and then he got hurt, and it was just like, yeah. No.
Mm-hmm. Frank says 2 punts, 1 a partial, and a PAT towards the end got blocked.
Yep. So 2 punts. That's like what? That's crazy.
Oliver0704, thank you for checking out the channel, says It really looks like the Raiders are tanking, but the Giants also want the first spot so badly. Yeah, we're going
Yeah,
to talk about the implications that this upcoming game has.
Yeah, I'm just praying the Giants win at least one game moving forward. I'd have to look at the schedule again, but I think when we looked at it last, I said it's possible. But
Frank says, "I don't want my team to ever tank, but I hope that they are because they're a damn disgrace to the silver and black."
yeah, I mean, again, like honestly, if there was one game that felt like, yeah, they're tanking, it was this game until the final drive. Like the final drive, it was like, guys, stop. But luckily, they didn't have timeouts.
Frank asks, "You think Rodgers and Pyle would get along?"
Great question.
All right, I don't think so.
They do. Yeah, they feel like too big-headed, the two of them.
But I mean, Shanahan and Brady would not have gotten along either, probably. And I mean, that was the right move to make at the time. Like, here's the thing: is maybe it's not a perfect match because Shanahan just wants a dummy that he can control, like a test dummy that like will throw it exactly where he wants to and run the exact play and not change anything at the line of scrimmage. Like, all right, this is another thing. Did you know that that Brock Purdy doesn't even call protections at the line of scrimmage? The center does that. Because they want to make it as easy for the quarterback as possible.
Yeah.
Who can actually see the linebacker? The center who's like this, or the quarterback
Right.
that's looking at everybody.
Right.
Yeah. Why do you think they have so many free rushers that like they have so many plays where there's an unblocked guy that just goes to Brock Purdy?
Yeah.
Maybe they should change something up. I don't know, but we'll see. But in terms of changing things up, do you see the first overall pick changing up this upcoming week, Mike? The Raiders are going to be playing the Jaguars in a game with. All right, this unironically is the highest stakes Raider game that we have seen in a very long time.
Yeah, dating back a couple of years for sure. Well, I mean, last year there were some games where it was like they actually have a chance at the playoffs. Like the Colts game last year. I mean, well, what do you think? Let's go with you first.
Okay, so say what you want about how bad both these teams are. I actually think that the Jaguars are playing pretty good under Mac Jones a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't think that Mac Jones is playing that badly. Could you imagine if that's who the Niners end up getting? Is Mac Jones?
That's who they wanted all along.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not necessarily sure what's going on with Evan Engram. Is he injured?
I don't know.
He played 0% of the snaps, had 0 targets, 0 catches. It didn't show up like he was inactive, at least like when I saw it on Sleeper fantasy-wise. But, I don't know what's going on with that. But Brian Thomas Jr. is still playing very well. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a good matchup for the Raiders. Well, really a bad matchup if you want to lose, but a good matchup for the Raiders, like in terms of Jacoby Myers should be able to eat in this game, and Brock Bowers should be able to have a pretty decent game against the Jaguars. But I mean, the Raiders just still cannot run the football. They've struggled all year. They're like, the Raiders are historically bad with the run, dude. I don't remember a team in recent memory that was this bad at running the football. Like, I've seen teams refuse to run the ball, but the Raiders are trying and they just can't.
Yeah.
They just cannot. So, I don't know. Like, I really think that they are interested in the first overall pick. And I really, all right, Lorenzo sent that thing in the group chat, and I don't know how real it is about Antonio Pierce like being at like a club at 2:30. It could just be fake. It could just be fake.
Yeah, I'd say we should probably treat it like that until it's proven otherwise, but it's
probably
funny
fake.
regardless. Yeah.
But I mean, if something like that, like the fact that I kind of believe that, or the fact that I could believe it for a second,
Yeah.
that's just how poorly the Raiders are playing,
Right. Yeah.
The fact that like for a second I'm like, oh man, this guy doesn't even take it seriously. Like I apologize to Antonio Pierce if that thing that's like spreading around the internet is just a joke or like it's not true. So I apologize on my part, but there's no way for me to know for sure. Like I'm trying to predict who's going to lose this game. Really, it's not a matter of who's going to win this game. It's who's going to lose it. I think that I am going to pick the Jaguars to win it.
Let's go. Oh man, I hope you're right because I'm picking the Raiders.
Ooh.
Yeah. And the reason why is because even though Max Crosby's out, the Raiders defense didn't look bad today against the Falcons, a team who's fighting to make the playoffs, and yet the Raiders with Desmond Ridder playing out of the shotgun the entire game, getting a safety and getting a punt blocked, two punts blocked, and an extra point. The Raiders almost beat the Falcons on the final drive of the game. A team that should offensively be doing better. And defensively actually did do pretty good against the Raiders. Whereas the Jaguars are just not playing that good. And, they barely etched out a win against the Titans a week or two ago, 6-3 or something like that. That's the only way I can see the Jaguars beating the Raiders is just the Raiders can't score, the Jags can't score, and the Jags just barely score enough more because they have a little bit more talent on offense, like Brian Thomas Jr. And I don't know if ETN's playing or not. That's a big question for me.
He is. I mean, he was playing this past week.
Okay, so that's good. Like at least hopefully they can run the ball, and hopefully Mac Jones can play good, and hopefully I'm wrong. It's just my thought is if the Raiders can almost beat the Falcons with Desmond Ridder, I kind of expect Aiden O'Connell to lead the Raiders to a win against the Jaguars.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately.
Well, I just think about it like this. All right, so Mac Jones threw for nearly 300 yards against a good secondary with the Jets. Like, say what you want about the entire Jets team, their secondary is respectable, right?
Yeah.
I'd say they're a better secondary than the Raiders. That's what led Mac Jones to throw 2 interceptions. Have the Raiders really been a team that has been able to create turnovers, Mike? Because the Jets are.
Yeah, not very much. So
I mean, the Raiders can't run the ball. At least the Jaguars, their running backs combined for 100 yards. Or just over 100. Brian Thomas Jr. is just he's a monster. He had 10 catches, 105 yards, 2 touchdowns. I could use a guy like that on my fantasy team.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have no clue what happened to he must have got hurt or something, or maybe was a healthy scratch. But Brenton Strange, 11 catches, 73 yards in I guess in place of Evan Engram, So yeah, the Jaguars can at least put up points I just don't think that the Raiders can really put up points, and I guess that could change if O'Connell plays.
Yeah, I mean, on everything that you've been saying, the more that you talk about this game, the more that I think that actually common sense kind of tells me, yeah, that maybe the Jaguars do win this game. I just think that I honestly haven't paid enough attention to the Jaguars defense, so I shouldn't say like, oh, the Raiders can score all over them or anything like that. Like the Raiders offense is, like you said, historically bad. And it feels like it, right? And I mean, Aiden O'Connell against the Buccaneers, he was making some stupid passes. Like it's very possible he goes out there and he sucks. It's just I don't know. I just think the Raiders defense actually doesn't look all that bad right now. And like they've been in almost every game, you know.
Mm-hmm. Like to
And
me,
I feel like
it's a toss up. It's a toss up in this one. It's not like
yeah,
I don't
no, it
feel
is for me.
super strongly one way or another. Like I can see the scenario where we're both win. I'm
Yep,
just my
I
coin
agree.
flip right now in my gut told me Jacksonville.
Yeah, and I think for me, maybe one other thing that puts me more in towards the Raiders is that one oh my God, the Jags haven't fired Doug Peterson, have they?
No, they want a high draft pick.
Yeah. I don't know what I'm thinking of the Saints, which we play the following week, who fired Dennis Allen. But what I was gonna say there was, well, at least you have one coach who's still trying to fight for his job, but actually you have two coaches here that are. Although both of them I think probably are already gone. The team just hasn't made the move yet. In Pierce and Peterson.
Why can I see the Raiders winning out? I'm not picking them to win out.
No, they shouldn't beat the Chargers. I think the Chargers will be in a race with the Broncos, although they face them this week on Thursday. But the Chargers should be in a race for that 5th seed. I'm hoping that they play hard against us. But the Saints, yes, I agree. Like, depending on how this Jaguars game goes and the health of the Saints players, there's a solid likelihood that I'll pick the Raiders again next week, and this could just completely fuck our draft. These next 2 weeks can fuck us so bad.
Well, you told me at the beginning of the season that the Raiders were going to split with the Chargers.
Well, I'm changing my mind.
I
was a little bit more confident before the season started, okay?
Bro, you know what's funny is like I feel like Tyler would laugh regardless of the outcome. Like you would bah!
Oh, for sure. Yeah, they just fucked themselves out of a quarterback.
Especially if the Chargers just made the playoffs anyway.
Yeah. That would be like a reverse psychology way of getting us back for that week 18 overtime game against them a couple years ago with Derek Carr.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, yeah, I don't know. I'm picking the Raiders, unfortunately. But God, I hope I'm wrong. God, I hope I'm wrong. I hope you're right.
Frank feels the same way. He says Raiders got to win this one.
Well, we do not feel the same way. They do not need to win this game.
Yeah, the Raiders need to lose this game. Well, all right, here's the thing though. In the race for the first overall pick, does it really matter? I mean, if the Raiders are really set on Shedeur Sanders, which we don't know if they are, it could just be like, one of those things where Shedeur is interested in going to the Raiders, but really it doesn't play out that way. But it seems like there's so many signs and everything, Dion begging Antonio Pierce to draft his son. It's stuff like that makes me think Antonio Pierce might get a second chance at being the Raiders coach, but I just don't know. I think
for one thing, that Deion Sanders thing with Antonio Pierce, I want to say was before this season. I know that it just randomly dropped like a week or so ago. I could be wrong because Shedeur Sanders was in Vegas like around the same time as when that video dropped, but I don't know. I'd have to get that fact checked. I want to say somebody's mentioned like, yeah, that actually was like in the off season, like more in line with like the fact that Antonio Pierce got hired. Like, they were at something. Deion Sanders was there, and it was like, well, now that you're the coach, like, you got to draft them Sanders boys. It's whatever. And I also think if you did it right now, I don't know. It feels like collusion or something, or whatever you would call it, or tampering. But
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. It's all weird. I don't think any team right now is specifically dead set on any given player as a whole, like as an organization, as a scouting department. I don't think that's a thing. But I think Mark Davis or Tom Brady very much could be. But it's not guaranteed that Tom Telesco is going to be the guy. It's not guaranteed that the scouting department is going to be the same. So for the Raiders as an organization to be dead set on, yeah, we want Shedeur Sanders, that doesn't make any sense to me right now. Like, you have to go through the process and properly, do your scouting. But what they should be dead set on, if I were them as a franchise, is let's make sure we get our guy. And the only way to do that, for a fact, is to have the first overall pick.
So why can I see this, Mike? Why? All right. So I feel like, with how interested it seems like Shedeur Sanders is with the Raiders, I could see a scenario where they just privately tell teams, hey, if you draft us, we're not interested. I mean, I guess if they are drafted to those teams, what is he going to do? Not play?
Right.
So I could see a situation where the Raiders just get in trouble for tampering. Tell me why that's the most Raider thing. Like, the NFL versus the Raider saga would just continue.
Yeah, I mean, I sure hope not. God, but
right?
No, I could see it for sure. I don't know. I don't think there's actually tampering going on. I think it's just the Sanders camp. I think what made them really want to come here are two things. For one thing, when Deion Sanders retired, apparently he wanted to be a Raider, but he never got the chance because I think he finished his career technically under contract with the Chargers, and they didn't let him leave the contract. Sort of similar to like a Barry Sanders sort of thing, I want to say. And he wanted to go to the Raiders, but the Chargers didn't let him off their contract, so he just retired. That doesn't matter now. I just always remember that and being like, damn, that would have been cool. But I think what really probably pushed the Sanders camp towards the Raiders, number one, is Tom Brady. I think once the news came out, like, Tom Brady's going to be a part owner of the Raiders, like, around that time was probably when Brady was training Shedeur Sanders personally. But then also, like, this is probably me being a homer, like, admittedly, but if I'm a prospect and like I'm a fan of the NFL and for all I know, maybe it would make sense if Shedeur grew up a Niner fan or a Cowboys fan or a Falcons fan because that's where his dad played, right? I don't know where they grew up, as far as what city, but whatever city that was, that that team would make the most sense. But if you want to look cool, and if there's a team in the NFL right now that it's like, well, what team do I want to like turn around? Like, what team would be awesome to play for? Like, between the city and the stadium and the jersey and everything, like, what fits me the most? Like, I feel like Shedeur Sanders would probably say the Raiders. Like, how cool would it be to turn around the Raiders? How cool would it be to turn around the Giants? How cool would it be to turn around any NFL team? Yes. But I don't know. I think the Tom Brady thing's big, and I also think that maybe, for whatever reason, they just want to be Raiders. I don't know.
Yeah, just make sure you zip it up when you're done.
I don't know. But it is clear, and it's interesting that the Sanders camp has made it, at least Shedeur has made it very clear chances are he wants to be a Raider. And I'm curious why, other than Tom Brady. Because the coaching staff, in theory, will change. So, something about the Raiders as an organization is making him want to go there. It's not the coaches right now. It's not like they have the greatest offensive mind ever at the helm. No, right? Like that's what Deion Sanders has said in the past is the biggest thing to him is like, well, what'll make us want to go somewhere over another place is the development of the quarterback. That's the biggest thing. So the only thing about that, him saying that lines up with the Raiders is Tom Brady.
Well, you want to know what the Raiders have that the other teams don't have?
I don't know.
The income tax is a factor. The Raiders have Brock Bowers.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Giants have Malik Neighbors, but Brock Bowers has been better than Neighbors this season.
You can always find a speedy, shifty, really good number one receiver. It's hard to find a Brock Bowers. I mean, technically speaking, I think Malik Neighbors is worth more than to an offense. But if you can have Brock Bowers and, I mean, this is like this is far-fetched for a comparison, but then again, like look at how good of a season Brock Bowers is having. Like if you can get a Travis Kelce and a Tyreek Hill, that's way better than just having Malik Neighbors. Like the Raiders are halfway there.
I'm thinking about it from like this perspective too. It's like having Brock Bowers on the offense, like Shedeur Sanders being such a young quarterback, it's almost like assembling a college football all-star team, where Brock Bowers was just last year like the best, one of the best players in college football. And now he's in the NFL right now, and is one of the best tight ends in football. And like you said, it's, elite tight ends are pretty rare, So, I mean, I could see that as like a potential selling point of why they would, like Shedeur, you're going to make more of your money and you're going to have a great tight end to throw to, right? And then, let's see. I would not be interested in Tennessee. I'm not interested in the Jets. I guess Devontae, but Shedeur isn't going at number 8. Like, and that's now. It can change, because the Jets are technically 2 games out of the first pick. But
yeah,
I don't know. Well, for all we know, he played NFL Street growing up and liked playing as the best team in that game.
Yep, it's possible.
Or one of the best teams. I guess the Eagles were very good in that game too.
Yep.
The Eagles were, yeah. They had Troy Vincent and was it Brian Dawkins?
Yes, Brian Dawkins. They had Donovan McNabb.
They were missing a running back, dude.
I think the running back was Deuce Staley. I could be wrong though. And receiver, I think they had a receiver, but you would just play both their corners plus Dawkins and you just have the Legion of Boom in the back. And then obviously the Falcons were always great with Mike Vick, but I don't know. I think Brady's a big part of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, possibly. That's probably it. I forgot to even mention that. But yeah, in terms of Raiders versus Jaguars, coin flip, I've got Jaguars winning. Mike has the Raiders winning. I want to quickly thank everybody for tuning in tonight. That's the end of our show. I want to thank Frank, Oliver, Lecky, Joel, my cousin Daniel, even though I got severely depressed, I want to thank the Chief for checking out the channel, sharing his thoughts. I want to thank Jesus, and I want to thank Mike. I want to thank Mike for, being a champ. We're 64 episodes in. We're in our second season, of doing this podcast, and there's only 3 games left. And it doesn't seem like either of our team is going to get any bonus games, but I mean, I think we're still going to do the podcast throughout the playoffs, and then we might take a little bit of a break after that until like some news comes our way.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, during the playoffs, in theory, is when a theoretical coaching search would be happening. So, in theory, the Raiders should have some news happening during the playoffs, at least from what I would expect. I'm just, my mind's all over the place. I'm just sitting here like, what if they are tanking, and what if this was the plan all along? I was even thinking of a what if scenario because I saw that Travis Hunter was like, you never know, maybe there's a good shot that Shedeur and I could be on the same team, and I was like, well, theoretically, no, because one of you should be the first pick, one of you should be the second pick, really, unless Shedeur Sanders tanks his draft stock. Why he would do that, I have no idea. And even if he did, that's no guarantee that some other team wouldn't draft him, like the Jets or somebody. But, like, just imagine, like, by the grace of the football gods to the Raiders tank. They get the first pick. Clearly, they're going to take Shedeur Sanders. No, they run the card up, and it's Travis Hunter, the best player in college football. And then you get to pick 3, and Shedeur Sanders is still on the board, and people are like, and then you get to pick 9, Shedeur Sanders is still on the board, and you're like, okay, what? And then Ian Rappaport's on the TV like, yeah, it's really strange, but, the word out is that none of the teams like Shedeur Sanders, but, like, he just tested really bad and blah, blah, blah. First pick of the second round, Shedeur Sanders to the Las Vegas Raiders. It's not happening, but I can dream. So, yeah, no.
Yeah, have fun with that, Mike.
Yeah, I'm dreaming over here. The Raiders.
The 2025 NFL draft.
Dreaming.
The 2025 NFL draft written by Disney.
Yeah, literally. That's a draft day. Kevin Costner, made by Disney scenario.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, I could see it happening. Like, nobody thought Will Levis was going to slip to the second round, and he did.
Yeah, he was getting mocked as high as like 4th overall or some shit. So, yeah, but the problem is at this point, it feels like Shedeur is the clear-cut, I don't know about clear-cut, but pretty close to clear-cut number 1 quarterback in this class. The number 1 quarterback doesn't fall, Number 3, sure, but the number 1 QB, no.
What would Shedeur have to do in order to tank his draft stock? Like,
he'd have to go the cycle. He'd have to go for the cycle. He'd have to tank. Or he'd have to be a complete dick. So, like, either he tanks at the combine, or he's like, no, I'm not doing the combine. Pro day, doesn't do the pro day. But then when he does, like, in-person interviews with the teams, just fucks them off. Every single one of them.
Yeah, like,
entire,
Shedeur, what formation is this? And then, like, it's like clearly an I formation.
Yeah.
A T?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, at Colorado, we call that a jumbo. Like, Shedeur, have you ever heard the I formation? What?
Yeah. At Colorado, my daddy just said to throw it to whoever.
Yeah. He just said throw it to Travis.
We didn't run any plays.
Yeah.
It was street ball. I don't know. It's almost 1 a.m. I'm just, I want to thank Frank for his comment here. Frank's very generous. Says, Thanks, gentlemen. Great show, great takes, great environment. And on that,
Thank you.
no, honestly, Frank, the reason why this is a great environment is for, from people like you, like Lecky, like Oliver, Fonzie, Joel, all you guys commenting in the show. It's like, I mean, this is just football takes, joke around, hang out, central, and that's kind of how we wanted it. Like Mike and I already, if we were not doing this podcast, we might be playing Rocket League right now and just talking about the same stuff. But now you guys get to listen to us talk, and we get to kind of like present it in a formal way, and a formally informal way. And it's just cool. So it's productive, and we appreciate like getting other people's perspectives. Helps us talk about more things, and yeah, I definitely have fun doing the streams. So hope everybody has a great night, and we'll catch you guys next week, and hopefully both of our teams can improve their draft stock.
Yeah, indeed.
All right, everyone. We'll catch you guys next time. Peace.